I woke up because I was literally on fire. My right foot was broken. Left foot was severed from my leg. I had a fractured pelvis, fractured vertebrae, bruised ribs, broken collarbone. And my right thigh, it was literally burning from the flames. And believe it or not, this wasn't the worst pain I'd have to face that day. Now, do you realize that sometimes things happen to us in life that we least expect, that we can't predict? And life is full of curveballs that we never see coming our way. Some surprises will knock us down and alter life as we know it. But you have to realize that when life knocks you down, you have to find the strength and resiliency to get back up. And when I woke up, face down on the surface of that burning boat, I didn't know it at the time, but that was the beginning of my test to truly finding resiliency. And in my journey, I developed a roadmap on how to get back up when you're knocked down in life, and how to not let life's unexpected obstacles keep you from truly fulfilling your destiny. I had to learn that resilience was not about regaining what was lost, but it's about reshaping what still remains. And it's having the ability to overcome that adversity and make the most out of what's still left to create the narrative for the rest of your life. So with that, let me introduce myself to you. My name is Tiran Jackson. I am the founder and creator of Reborn Resilient, and I'm honored and pleasured to be a part of the CHAMPIAM Summit. And today I'm going to present to you my roadmap to resilience. What this will show you are 7 steps in which you can make the conscious choice to choose to be resilient and change your life forever. Now, with that, let me take you guys back. 2018. My wife Malika and I, we're getting ready to celebrate a momentous occasion. We're getting ready to celebrate our 15th wedding anniversary, and we decided to take a trip. We decided we would go to the Bahamas and spend 5 days in paradise. Now, why did we go to the Bahamas? Well, a year prior, my wife Malika, she went on a girls' trip to Mexico, and one of the adventures that she got to do while she was there was actually get in the water and swim with the dolphins. Here you see a picture of Malika on that trip having a great time. And she talked about this, and she was excited about the time that she had being able to spend this time with the animals. And as we were starting to prepare for what was going to be our 15th anniversary, we started talking about where do we want to go. One of the ideas that came up was that she wanted to go to the small island in the Bahamas to go swim with some pigs. Yeah, you heard me right. To go swim with some wild feral pigs, which is one of the big attractions on this island called Exum. Now look, I like bacon, I like ham. I didn't know if I really wanted to be in the water with these pigs, but I thought to myself, baby, let's go ahead and do that. That's where you want to go. If that's where we can celebrate this time together, to be happy to have 15 years. You know how difficult it is to make it through 15 years and to continue to be able to look at and plan how we're going to spend the next 15 and the 15 after that. But the most important thing was we were in love, we were together, we were happy, and we were going to be able to bring in this milestone together. So we decided months in advance to book this trip. And the day before the trip, I drive my son 4 hours away to stay with his aunt and uncle. And I drop him off and I tell him, son, you're going to have a good time while you're with your cousins and terrorizing their dog and eating ice cream and staying up late at night. But don't worry, mom and dad are going to be good. And our son, Cameron, he was happy. He was excited. He was looking forward to get a break from us for a little bit. It's the summertime. He's on break. And he was tired of necessarily being, covered by the rules of mom and dad this whole time. So he was excited about getting ready to be spoiled by his family and having a good time with them. So he was like, Dad, you and mom need this. And so I left there feeling comfortable, feeling good that he was about to be great. And I told him I'll be back in 1 week to pick you up. I head back to Atlanta. Malika and I, we fly the next day to the Bahamas. We get there. The first 2 days are great. Time at the beach, fruity drinks, time at the pool. Here you can see a picture of Malika and I. The day before, we took some great pictures. We were truly in love and having the time of our lives. But on the 3rd day, we decided we would do something adventurous. We would leave our all-inclusive resort and we would go on an excursion to tour the island. And one of the aspects of being able to go on this tour was you get to spend time in the ocean with these pigs. So I thought to myself, we're going to have us a great day. We're going to spend some more time together. My wife is going to get her wish, what she wanted for this trip. And all in all, things were going to be wonderful. So we wake up that morning, go eat breakfast at the resort, leave from breakfast, we go to the edge of the resort, and we wait for this bus to come pick us up. Now, as we're standing there waiting, other couples are coming up. And you know how it is when you're on vacation and you're seeing other couples, other people. Everybody's happy. Everybody's excited. Everybody's enjoying themselves. Where are you from? Oh, really? How long have you been married? These are the type of questions. And, everyone is looking forward to the opportunity to go on this trip, but everyone is enjoying their time together. They're happy. They're loving life. So at 8 a.m., the bus comes and picks us up. On our way to the marina, we stopped by a couple other resorts and we're getting seeing new people pop up on the bus and all. And everybody is, like I said, just looking forward to this time to be able to spend together. We get to the marina, it's 8:40. And as we get to the counter, Malika and I have a decision to make. There's two options. You can either do a full day, 8-hour tour where you'll get to see more of the island. There's more stops throughout the way. Or you can do this 4-hour tour where you get to still swim with the pigs, still stop by some small restaurants, get some refreshments, still do a couple of other things. But at the end of the day, you'll come back sooner. And as Malika and I were talking about this, we were thinking about what we wanted to do with our day. And I was thinking I wanted to get back to the resort and go golfing that afternoon. And she was like, yeah, okay, well, I can go to the spa, so let's do the half-day tour. So that was our plan. So we bought the tickets for a half-day tour. We walked down this long pier. And at the edge of the pier, you had a choice to make. Go to the left for the 4-hour tour, go to the right for the 8-hour tour. We went to the left, boarded our boat, took our seats, and thought everything was fine. 9 a.m., we take off. Everything seems normal. I can remember my arm around Malika, the smell of the fresh air. As we started going off, I could see some iguanas in some trees as we're still seeing the coastline and seeing some of the greenery, and all is great. And then 8 minutes into the ride at 9:08, my life changed forever.
They met nearly 2 decades ago while in college at Tennessee State University. She was an AKA with the megawatt smile, a beautiful heart, and a magnetic personality. He, a Kappa, a humble guy with a sweet soul who prided himself on his study habits. They fell in love immediately after meeting at a party. They married 2 years later and had a son, Cameron. Their friends and family described their marriage as the perfect union between two strong, smart, and God-fearing people. Tiran and Malika Jackson were undeniably the envy of most couples.
Tonight, authorities in the Bahamas investigating what caused this popular tour boat to explode, killing one American woman and injuring at least 9 others, leaving behind this incinerated floating shell.
But on June 30th, Malika died while the two were celebrating their 15th wedding anniversary while vacationing in the Bahamas. She was 39. These are pictures of the duo taken the day before tragedy struck. They were enjoying a romantic getaway when the engine of the tour boat they were on suddenly exploded off the coast of Exuma. 10 American tourists were on board the 40-foot chartered boat at the time of the incident. Tiran lost his leg, broke his collarbone and fractured his pelvis and spine, suffered second-degree burns, and had his left shoulder dislocated. Malika, who was sitting where the engine exploded, was killed. And now Tiran, whose doctors say is a walking miracle, is forced to be a single father. And while his wife is gone, these pictures, memories, their son, are all reminders of the love that was and will forever live inside of his soul.
As I said, life can throw us curveballs that we never see coming our way. I never expected going on vacation to celebrate my anniversary with my wife. It was going to result to me waking up face down on the surface of this burning boat, having to be rescued by passengers from a second boat just to be pulled to safety. Unbeknownst to us, there was a fuel leak emanating from the fuel tank, and we were sitting right above that fuel tank. And something created a spark and led to the explosion. Now, as a result of the explosion, Malika was thrown off the boat into a different direction, and she was picked up by a third boat and taken to shore, her and one other passenger, and they were able to get to an ambulance and get to a clinic. As I'm picked up by a second boat and finally get to shore, I end up having to ride on the back of a truck to this clinic. And as they get me to this clinic, they put me on a stretcher. They wheel me in. And as I'm being wheeled in, that's the first time I hear Malika. I hear her moans. I hear her agony. I hear her pain. I hear her suffering. And I can't do anything about it. As they put me in the bay, and then there's one other passenger in between the bay, between Malika and I find myself praying to God, staying as still as possible, trying to understand and figure out what's happening. After what seemed like an eternity, the one doctor that was there came over to me and said, "We're going to send you and this other passenger to the good hospital, and your wife will come later." So as I'm laying there, even though I didn't have a chance to see Malika, to talk to Malika, I'm optimistic because I'm thinking if they're sending me and this other passenger, that must mean that Malika must not be injured as badly as we are. And so I get the opportunity to talk to Malika, and we'll be back together later that afternoon at this hospital. So they prep me, put me on a stretcher again, take me to an ambulance, drive me to an air ambulance, fly me from Exuma to Nassau, get me to the hospital. And as I'm in the emergency room, I'm thinking to myself, Lord, I hope my wife is okay. As they start prepping me for emergency surgery, because as I said earlier, my left foot was severed. There was blood rushing out. I could see my ankle bone. What they attempt to do is reattach my left foot to my leg. So before I know it, I'm going in the operating room, and I wake up several hours later in ICU. Now, as I wake up in ICU, there's a nurse in the room. And as I wake up, she decides to go out and get the doctors. And I'm thinking to myself, over 6 hours have passed. Malika should surely be here by now. So after a couple of minutes, 2 doctors come in the room. And as soon as they come in the room, I ask them, "Where's Malika? Where's my wife?" The 2 doctors look at each other in a confused state. And then they walk back out of the room. And I'm thinking to myself, that's the most obvious question I could be asking right now. Why did they leave? And after what seemed about a couple of minutes, they come back in and they tell me, "Mr. Jackson, we hate to inform you, but your wife didn't make it." And I'm thinking to myself, I'm an eternal optimist. My wife didn't make it. You mean that the airplane that was supposed to go pick her up and bring her here, something happened with the needed refueling, or they had some issue, but she's still on her way here, right? No, Mr. Jackson. Your wife died at that clinic. They didn't want to tell you before they were flying you here. Now here I am, already broken physically, but I have to hear the news that my wife is no longer here. I cry myself to sleep because I am disbelief. I can't believe that this time that was supposed to be so great for us is now so tragic. As I cry myself to sleep, I'm heartbroken and I'm hurt because I'm just in disbelief and end up hoping that when I wake up that this is just a bad dream. I wake up that next morning, still in this hospital bed, and I realize I got to do something that's going to be equally as painful. Malika is not coming back. But now I got to call that 12-year-old boy that I left with his aunt and uncle and told him that mom and dad will be back in 1 week, and let him know, "Son, I know mom and dad were here to have a great time on vacation, but mom and dad were in a horrible accident, and your mom's never coming back home." Dad, no, what happened? And as I tried to explain to Cam that we were just in the wrong place at the wrong time, Cam said to me, "So Dad, mom is in heaven?" "Yes, son, mom is in heaven." And as I heard his tears, his crying, his pain, I tried to console him, let him know that I would be all right, knowing that I was lying to him, that I didn't know if I was going to be all right. But I had to reassure him that I wasn't as bad off as I was. Cam told me, "Dad, I'm praying for you, and I know we'll get through this." And so to have his encouragement and support, even though I hear him crying, I know he's not fully processing what's going on, but it hurt me to break his heart and break that news to him. Such a horrible, difficult, challenging thing to have to tell him. But I was praying to God that everything would be all right. Later that same day, while I'm still in this hospital in the Bahamas, I'm laying there and I'm feeling worse and worse. Well, what happened was that as I'm laying there, I could see the EKG monitor and I see my vital signs go from green to yellow to red. And I'm thinking to myself, God, you've already taken my wife. And now I need to start coming to grips with the fact that you're about to take my life. What happened was as they reattached my foot was infected. And now this infection was starting to circulate through my body. So my organs were starting to shut down. So my blood pressure, my heart rate, my oxygen levels, everything was starting to get worse and worse. And I was getting to the point of accepting the fact that I was no longer going to be here. As I'm laying there, I'm starting to pray and think about, God, please watch over Cameron. Please let him be okay. Dear Lord, what did we do to deserve this? I had no understanding of what caused us to have this fate. And I'm not getting an answer back. But I go to sleep that day thinking that the next time I close my eyes, it's going to be the last time I close my eyes. Now, by the grace of God, I did wake up that next morning. And by then, a lot of things were happening. My mom and my sister, they had flown down to the Bahamas and they were trying to do everything they could to get me out of there. There were other people who were working that saw what happened and wanted to do whatever they could to save my life. There was a level 1 trauma center in Florida who had actually contacted the Bahamas to see if they could have me to give me the treatment that I needed to survive. And as I woke up that day, I found myself essentially getting confiscated from this hospital, put on a stretcher, being taken on an ambulance, on another air ambulance, and being flown to Florida, where a hospital said, we want to do what we can to make sure that he can still survive. So as I get to that hospital, they tell my sister, they tell my mom that we've got to do whatever we can to try to preserve his life. And before I know it, I'm back in emergency surgery and I wake up and with my left leg gone. Now, over the course of the next 5 days, I go through 9 different surgeries to start to put the pieces of me back together. But it was on the 5th day after the accident. The 5th day is when things started to resonate in a number of ways. God was talking to me, and I could hear him clearly. He told me multiple things. One, he told me it was Malika's time to come home, that she had completed her task, that she had did what she was supposed to do while she was here on earth, but I need to get a place of accepting that. He told me if he wanted to, he could have taken my life 3 different times. He could have taken my life when that boat exploded. He could have taken my life when my vitals went from green to yellow to red in the Bohemian hospital. He could have taken my life when I went through 5 surgeries in one day and my vitals were still so unstable. But he was keeping me here, and he was keeping me here for a reason that I didn't understand at that point in time, but for something greater than what I was. He told me that I was not going to go back to being an engineer. I was not going to go back to my normal. The normal that I knew it was gone, that there was going to be a new normal that I was going to have to accept and understand. He told me to be resilient, that the obstacles that I've overcome to this point just to still be alive were nothing compared to the obstacles I was going to have to face moving forward. And I was going to have to make a conscious decision not to feel sorry for myself, not to feel pity, not to struggle to survive. But by choosing to be resilient, I was going to have an opportunity to thrive. And he told me one other thing. He told me that I have a journey for you. I have an opportunity for you if you trust me, follow me, and make that choice to be resilient. He told me that even though I didn't truly know what it meant to be resilient, he told me that resilience is not about regaining what was lost, but it was truly about reshaping what still remains. And it's what you do with what still remains that determines how your life operates moving forward. So it was at that point, while I'm in a hospital bed, broken physically, spiritually, emotionally, and mentally, that God hit me with this message that resilience was going to save my life. And that was the start of the transformation of who I was and who I was to become. So I was not going to be the same Tiran Jackson before that accident. At that moment, I was reborn in a resilient state. And as I started my journey towards recovery, that led to me learning lessons along the way that would become my roadmap to what it's truly like to be resilient and live a resilient lifestyle. So with that, I'm going to share with you what my roadmap to resilience looks like. And these 7 points, these 7 steps that if you can apply 1 or 2 of them to your life today, you can have a greater opportunity of overcoming the challenges and struggles that you have to face in life. So as I go through this, I hope you're taking notes and you look at this and you reflect on the challenges and the obstacles that you faced in your life and how you're going to overcome it. The first step on this roadmap to resilience is about restoration. And when I talk about restoration, that is the process of knowing when rest is necessary so healing can take place. As I said, I was broken in a physical state that I needed to recover. 2 weeks after being in that hospital in Florida, it was time for me to go. They had done all the surgeries that they could do for me, and it was time for me to start the process of healing. Now, my right foot was in a cast, my left arm was in a sling, I had a back brace, but my thought and what we were hoping for was to be accepted by a rehab facility closer to family that could actually work with me to start the recovery process. The hospital, they contacted Vanderbilt University in Nashville, Tennessee. I had family there to see if they would accept me for rehab. After giving them all of the records and talking through the surgeries, they declined me. They would not accept me. The next step, they tried to go to a place in Alabama where some of my family was, University of Alabama, Birmingham, great medical rehab facility. Same questions and the same outcome. Denied. As I'm here trying to understand why are these people denying me, it came back to this situation where these hospitals and rehab facilities said I needed 2 good limbs in order to start the rehab with them. All I had was my right arm that I could actually do something with. Now, as I'm going through this, I'm getting dejected. I'm getting hurt because I'm finding myself thinking that nobody wants me. But the actual best decision that could have been was for my sister, for me to go and live with family for 6 weeks while I started to heal through these injuries, have treatments come to the house and work with me, the physical therapy, the occupational therapy, the nurses to come and treat me in order to leave me in a safe place, a place where I was comfortable around people who love me. While I was doing this, it gave me the opportunity to start the process of reflecting back and truly looking at what life was going to be like, but it gave me the opportunity to heal. I didn't have to be around a ton of people. I didn't have to do a great deal, but this was a forced means of rest and restoration. So I ask you this, as you're going through, the challenges that you're facing, the obstacles when they come up for you, are you truly taking the time to pause and to be able to go through this rest phase? This was a moment, and part of my restoration and healing was getting to a place where I was doing things with my son and being able to heal and recover. It was a place of peace. It was a place where there wasn't a lot that was happening or going on, but it allowed for me not to have to really focus on everything related to the problem. Understand your source of restoration. And then this is the question I have for you. What does restoration look like in your life? You're probably going through some busy challenges, some busy issues, a stage in life, and challenges and difficulties that you have to overcome. But sometimes before we start to try to deal with and bounce back from that setback, we may need to get stronger. We may need to heal in some way, form, or fashion before we can actually start the process of rebounding from that incident. So ask yourself, what does that restoration look like in my life for me to start moving forward? The next step in this roadmap to resilience that I want to share with you, it goes to what the O is. And what that stands for is the obsession. What do you have an obsession with? Where is your laser-like focus? Where are you so keyed on that you will not let the distractions pull you in and pull you away from what you have to accomplish? For me, I ended up being in this space, and this was probably in the first couple of weeks after the accident, where I had to look at the physical therapy like it was the most important part of my life. Even though emotionally I was broken, I was not in a place to start going through things. So I had to treat my physical therapy like it was the biggest key for me to being able to be functional, to be able to take care of my son again, to be able to try to live life. I had to treat the work like it was something that I couldn't go without. And as much as it hurt me physically, it was one of those things where I just had to do it. Here you could see where I was taking some of the first steps to crutches. This was about 2 months after the accident, and it took me doing what was necessary to get my core back together, get some strength in my legs, start to recover. And it was, like I said, the most important thing if I wanted to get to my goals. What are your goals? What obsesses you in your life? What do you have that is going to be the priority that's going to keep you moving forward? If you understand that, through getting this obsession, you get closer and closer to your goals and you're not letting the distractions get the best of you, you can get to a stage where you're able to overcome. These were my first
You look
steps.
good walking time.
Good.
They were a function of
You see it coming.
learn, move, understand, having that
You look
course getting through this time. So my question to you is, you have to have this passion, you have to have these goals, and you have to be able to block out the distractions. What are you truly passionate about? I was passionate about being able to get back to where physically I could be there to support my son. What goals have you identified that you are completely obsessed with? If you can find that obsession, it's going to help you be more resilient and be able to bounce back and use your setbacks and struggles as a means for being able to create the positive growth that you're looking for in your life. So what are your obsessions and what will you continue to move forward with in order to get close to your goals? That's the second point on this roadmap and strategy towards resilience. Thirdly, our acceptance. What are you not accepting that you need to accept in your reality? Sometimes we're holding on to things and can't let go. Sometimes we're in denial of the situation as it may be. Sometimes we think that what was the way that our future needs to go. I had to get to this place of acceptance of the fact that life was going to have to go on without Malika. Now, don't get me wrong. I was grieving, I was struggling, I was suffering, but I had to get to a place where I could accept that so I could move forward powerfully. I talk about my son, Cameron. He was struggling with acceptance. Before Malika and I went on our vacation, she had just gotten promoted to a director level with her job. What this meant was there were times where she would spend a week in Chicago and it would just be me and Cam at home. And we got used to it being the two of us. Now, when she got back, I would have to travel as well. So there was a lot of this time where Cam was used to one of us. But the point of acceptance was that it was a struggle for him because in his mind, he did not want to accept the reality of the situation. He thought that it was like mom was on a long work trip. And that's the way he processed it at the time. Now, as we go through grief, we get through these several stages that fight us, that hold on to us. And denial is the enemy of acceptance. The more that we're in denial of that reality, the harder it is for us to be able to look where we are in present and how we're going to move forward. My acceptance had to come in the form of realizing that I was not going to be like anybody else. This is one of the first times I looked in the mirror and actually saw myself missing my leg and said, Ty, this is who you are now. Embrace it. Be understanding that you're not going to look like everybody else. This was a change in my identity. I was no longer the person who I was, who could get up and go do everything when I wanted to. I understood that I was going to be viewed differently. And the sooner I got to a place of acceptance that I was going to be permanently disabled, that I was going to have to learn how to function and operate differently, the better I was going to be at figuring out how I was going to attack the problem and move forward and find solutions on how I was going to be able to adapt. So my question to you is, a lot of us are in denial of some of the realities in our lives. What are you in denial of that you truly need to accept to move forward? The sooner we got to a place of acceptance that Malika was not moving forward, and that Cam and myself were going to have a new life that was going to be different, that we were going to have to figure out, the easier it was for us to start implementing the tactics and the strategies in order to make that our reality. So what are you needing to accept that you aren't accepting because of your emotions, because of your feelings, because of anything related to your business? Ask yourself that question and find out what can you do to get past that denial and move forward with life. The next part on this roadmap to resilience is our level of discipline. What are you finding yourself being disciplined about? I had to treat not only going through the physical therapy as something that that I was going to need to do, but it was something I had to do. And it was something I was going to have to do with a level of consistency and create it not just a habit, but make it be part of my life. As I started getting more and more focused on where my goal was, the doctors had told me, look, you might be 8 to 10 months before you're walking with a prosthetic, and you'll probably walk with the limp that you'll always have, and it'll be obvious that you went through this incident, this accident. I treated, the working out as I started getting stronger and I was starting to rebuild myself. I realized that this had to be something I do every day. I found myself working out on my own and learning how to just going to boot camps in the morning as part of my livelihood. I learned how to swim with one leg because it was one of these things where I knew I needed to do to stay in the optimum shape in order to be able to live the life I wanted to live. And what that did was it led to me starting to gain confidence in myself. I found myself turning my walk into a jog, and my jog turned into a run. And before I knew it, I was able to do amazing things that I didn't think I'd be able to do with a prosthetic leg. Here you can see an example of me, getting to a place where boxing is really adapting and adjusting to prosthetic leg, move forward and do more in my life. And what I realized is by having the discipline to do the things that I needed to do without letting letting it stop me, doing the work, even when it didn't feel like it, got me closer to the goals and the needs that I had in my life to really be able to accomplish what was needed. Question to you, in what areas of your life do you need more discipline in order to drive the change that you need in order to get to your goals in life? If you can implement that, then you're going to be so much closer to changing your life by finding these elements of resilience that are a part of where you should be. So that's the next step in that point of finding the discipline to overcome when the times where you don't want to do the work. Next part of this roadmap, your motivation. Are you motivated? Can you find that motivation to move forward in life? I had a situation where I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to move forward in life. I lost my wife. My will was gone. I didn't know how I was going to move forward. I was going through depression. I was going through anxiety. I was dealing with survivor's remorse. All of these things were making it harder for me to actually get up and want to do the things that I needed to do. But as I was laying in the bed at my sister's house and I was really starting to come to grips and process the fact that life was going to be different, I was writing notes and messages to Malika and thinking back to some of the great times that we had in our life. And one of the thoughts that came to mind was a conversation, a time that Malika had had. It was about a year prior to us going on this vacation. We were in our basement. We were watching this movie. And early on in the movie, the main character died. And it was a shock. It was a surprise. And at the end of the movie, Malika and I were talking. And it led to these what-if questions. What if something were to happen to me? What would you want me to do? That's the question I asked Malika. And Malika, as she was sitting there thinking about it, what she wanted me to do if something were to happen to her, she came up with a couple of things that she told me. She told me, Ty, if something were to happen to me, I wouldn't want you to grieve for too long. I'd want you to go back out there and find happiness again. I want you to be able to move forward with life. And then after a few minutes, Malika, she stopped for a second and she came up with this list. And on this list were the names of 7 women that she said under no circumstances whatsoever, these women better not be in my house. They better not be around my son. They better not be bringing you casseroles. She said, nuh-uh, them ain't my real friends. But after she said that, she thought about it some more and she said, Ty, if something were to happen to me and I'm no longer here, I'd want you to do everything you can to make sure that the only part of me that's still left here on this earth is well taken care of. And that was our son, Cameron. So as I found myself being in a position, in a place where I didn't know how I was going to move forward, I didn't have the motivation, the desire, that was my motivation. My promise, my commitment to Malika was going to be what would get me out of bed when I needed to go and do the work. It would get me out of bed and going to the grief counseling and the therapy in order to be able to process what happened. It would get me going and doing what I needed to do to be there for Cameron as he needed. So with that, I ask you this question. What is really driving you? What is the source of your motivation? Can you find it? This is my son, Cameron. He was 14 years old at the time. And as I was starting to recover, I had to look back at that and if it wasn't for him, I would have had a hard time being able to bounce back from that situation. So what is the source of your motivation? What is going to get you up every day? What's going to keep you moving, keep you going, because it's truly bigger than you. But you have to ask yourself, what is that source in order to make sure you're finding your North Star? You're doing what's needed in order to push where you need to get the discipline, the motivation, and find that resilience to move forward. Next point, I'm almost done with the points of resilience, this roadmap to resilience that'll change your life. Your attitude. What is your attitude? Your attitude are your thoughts, your beliefs, the feelings that you have about yourself, the way that you look at situations. You know, look at this guy right here. This was me in a wheelchair. This is with me in one of my worst states. Even though I had so many bad things happen to me, look at the smile on him. Look, despite all the hurt, all the pain, all the struggle, I was still approaching life with the right attitude and trying to find the positives in what happened, even though it was so hard. Having the right attitude, as I said, physically going through what was needed to recover. It led to me being able to run 5Ks. And there's no way that I should have been able to do this 6 months after the accident. Having that right attitude and the way that I attacked and approached problems changed the mindset. That was a shift. You can look at your problems and your obstacles as things that's going to keep you from reaching your goals. But you can also look at those challenges as this is what's going to take to really pull out the strength within me to overcome what's in my way. And with the right attitude, that determines your altitude. You can reach new heights by approaching those problems with the right mindset, reframing it in a means of, okay, what am I going to learn from this and how can I be better? So my question to you is, can you change your attitude? Is it negative? Are there struggles that pull you down? Can you change your attitude and your approach towards your challenges to truly reach the goals and destinations in your life? So critical. Your thoughts, your beliefs are going to have a major part in how you face problems going forward and where you reach as a result of the challenges that have come up. Lastly, but not least, the last part of this roadmap deals with the process. What is the process? Well, I see a process. I was an engineer in my former life. I thought in processes. Processes are a specific step of actions that get you from where you are to where you want to be. Everywhere you got in life, your mind got there first. So if you can't visualize where you need to go, you're going to have a hell of a hard time taking the right steps and the right actions in order to get there. But what's important is that you understand what are the key elements in your process and you know how to execute it. I try to look at processes as what does it take to make a small step from where I am now to getting closer to my goal. Small wins every day. We should strive for that, but we need to take the time to understand what it takes to be there. As far as my process, I never thought I would be speaking in front of huge audiences and crowds. When the first times I started speaking, it was because I was being asked to and I was nervous. I didn't understand that this was necessary in order for me to get out there and share my story. But as I learned how to do this, getting the right coaching, getting the right training, understanding that, hey, this is more than what I'm able to do on my own, and that there are others who have been able to go down this process and know how to walk you through it. It was going to make life easier. I was going to get there quicker. The healing process was going to be accelerated, and I was going to be able to do things that were greater than me. As I mentioned, when I was in the hospital bed, God told me I had a path that was different for you. I didn't know what it was at that time, but that led to me starting the speaking. The speaking turned into me writing my first book, Choosing Resilience, All Things Work Together for Good. And before I knew it, I found myself on platforms and stages where I'm helping guide and show people as a life coach what steps you need to take to get the most out of your life. There was a process. There were actions I had to take to do that. Ask yourself, what is your process? Are you clear on what this process looks like to get the transformation that you desire? This is so important because a lot of times we may find ourselves wandering around aimlessly, understanding that we have a vague goal in mind, but we don't know exactly how we get there, so we're just doing stuff. Let's get out of the habit of doing stuff, but take the time to determine and understand what our process looks like, and then take the actions, take the steps in order to actually execute and get there with that process. So as I said right there, I have presented to you what this roadmap to resilience looks like. If you can apply a couple of these, one or two of these in your life now, you will start the process of being more resilient. And when I talk about what resilience is, I'll say it again. Resilience is not about regaining what was lost, but reshaping what still remains. And it's what you do with what still remains that determines the narrative of your life story. You are at a place today in your life where you've gotten here, and you've gotten here because of the actions you've taken and the circumstances around you. But you still have a ways to go. And you can't go back and fix the things of the past. If they were good, great. If they were bad, you got to get over that. What are you going to do today with what still remains in order to best position yourself to reach the success, the hopes, and the dreams moving forward? With that, I want to tell you, look, it's been an honor. It's been a pleasure to be a part of this Champ I Am Summit. I hope you've enjoyed this talk. Hopefully it's inspired you and caused you to look at life from a slightly different perspective, because we all aren't promised to be here. I was reborn the day that boat exploded. And if it wasn't for resiliency, I would not be here today. My name is Tiran Jackson. I am a changed and transformed man. Now, there's a level of transformation that we all go through and that we all have, but some of us make the decision. we decide to stay stagnant or stay where we are or deal with what life throws our way. Let's take control of it. Let's regain control of our life, and let's learn how to move forward powerfully by making the conscious choice to be resilient. If you want to follow me and connect with me, you can find me on social media under Tiran Jackson Official, or you can go and look up Reborn Resilient, where that is my platform where I help those going through trauma, tragedy, or transition make the transformations they need to be triumphant again. I thank you for your time. I hope this talk has touched, inspired, motivated you, and showed you by making the choice to be resilient, you can take control of your life in ways you never imagined. My name is Tiran Jackson. Enjoy the rest of the CHAMPIAM Summit, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. Be blessed, take care, and God bless.